Well, look who's here joining us, author Mark Steyn. We have a whole lot to go at with our Mark. So first of all, there's this one for you. The Democrats, all about obstruction, and it is so far a winning tactic. They have obstructed everything. What say you?
Yeah, that's true. I also think there is obstruction, or at any rate indifference to the president's agenda from a lot of people in the Republican leadership. And that's the real problem here in political terms. But when your party nominally controls the House, the Senate and the White House, there's a limit to how you can blame it all on the Democrats. In the end, Ryan, McConnell, the Congress has to get on board with the president's program. There's no alternative, and if they don't actually want to advance it against Democrat obstructionism, they will be punished for that next year.
But Mark, all we heard throughout the election campaign and for the last few years, all we heard was Republicans will cut taxes to get the country moving, and Republicans will repeal and replace Obamacare. Now, are we to believe that Republicans don't actually want to do either of those two things? I can't believe that.
Well, Mitch McConnell is standing there saying, you know, if he can't work with Republicans, he'll work with Democrats on Obamacare reform. What do you think that's going to look like? What do you think that's going to do for premiums? What do you think that's going to do for deductibles? In the end, you can't operate a three-party system in this country. Trump is a Republican president, and he's entitled to the support of the Republican Congress.
I think something will be done at the very last minute because they have to do something. That's what I think. We'll see. I want your response to the President Trump at the G-20 meeting, where he stood up and supported Western values, and the media was all over him, and actually one person called him a racist. Your reaction to that?
Yeah, a lot of people called him a racist and a white nationalist, and it's actually good to see how deeply embedded the contempt for Western civilization is among the American media. The idea that this was some kind of white nationalist thing. I have no problem saying that Western civilization has built the modern world. We have developed the systems that enable people to live their lives to their fullest potential. We have led the world in scientific innovation and in artistic achievement. And the president touched on all that. And so when some guy on the Washington Post or a commentator on MSNBC or even Tucker Carlson's guest last night, who was not prepared to say that, say, the Western legal system deriving from common law was better than Sharia, necessarily better than Sharia. I mean, there's good points and bad to everything. These guys are total hypocrites. The MSNBC guy, you can only make a living as a cultural relativist in a Western civilizational society. You can make a living as a cultural relativist putting down Western civilization on MSNBC. If you go to the other side of the world and try to make a living as a pundit on Waziristan Tonight, you can't do it, which is why these guys are all hypocrites. None of them have any desire to live anywhere but in the Western world.
What do you say about Seattle, where the city council has just imposed a new tax on wealthy city dwellers, 2.25% over $250,000 for individuals? What do you make of that? That's another gasp from the socialists trying to figure out how to help the poor and actually hurting them. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. We already have a very redistributive system in this country, and it's such an unnatural word I can't even say it, which is why you shouldn't try to do it if you can't even say it. I mean, we have already the 1% pay their share, the middle class pay their share, and there's a great problem when you introduce tax systems in which a majority of the voters are not participating. It's a problem with the federal income tax, where half the country doesn't pay it, so what do they care whether it goes up? It's even worse in Seattle because essentially it's a certain proportion of the population voting to punish a very narrow sliver of the population. That's actually an abuse of representative government. It's not something that should be encouraged. We need broad-based taxes in which the amount of tax you pay is determined by your overall income rather than whether you happen to be above some threshold. This won't work for Seattle. It'll be like New York, where rich people just decide they're going to make their living arrangements and live elsewhere.
Yeah, and actually, they live for less than 180 nights in New York City, live elsewhere, and still enjoy the city and don't pay the tax. It's what always happens, you know.
Yeah,
That's why you're a favourite guest on the programme, Mark Steyn, and we're not done with you yet.